duration to get this thing finished by the time the gnats comes around. Notice the retracts. Notice the scoops on the bottom of the cowl. Awful lot of neat little things. The invasion stripes. Awful lot. Boy, could you make a stunt ship. Awful lot of neat stuff. Some big three-bladed bollies. Oh, man. Bob, you better do it, and it better be right. That's a warning. Just think of some of the cowling details you could put on these guys. Some nice cast composite landing gear. Alright, Aronstein, I can't wait to see this thing. Alright, back to scale modeling at its best. Back to Pro Stunt Products. A house that smells like dope stays like dope. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Karen's been sick for about a month, and it's been really nice seeing how many, I don't know how many well-wishers we've had. She's typed hundreds of things for Stunt News, and up until the time that John Pothier took that job from me, or from her, she edited, typed, took the red pen, made me sound like I didn't know it if I didn't how to speak English or whatever. Karen, you deserve an applause. Yay! Okay, back to the shop. Now the good news is this molding stuff, after 2,000 experiments, we're finally getting some nice parts out of here. And finally getting some that we can ship out to customers, but we've learned something every step of the way. And one of the things with using this particular rubber, and this is the urethane rubber of course, is absolutely positively, if we're going to use this in the future, we're going to wind up using the PVA. The PVA is a good choice with this rubber as a mold release agent. Now the other thing, the release agent, the dry release agent, I used it on this mold 3 or 4 times. Every time the part's released real nice. I did have problems with air bubbles and other things that I'm working on separately, but as a release agent for this mold, this one is working fine, and I really can't wait to get the good rubber. By the latest, next week we'll have the good rubber and we can start going into production on these parts. And then of course I want to make up the spinners. Now the thing that was really significant with all of these tests, this is what I've finalized after, I guess we've done this about 15 times now, is what I do, I just fill a mold with PVA, even coat the top surface, almost just float it in there really. As soon as I know I have all the sides covered, I turn it upside down, let the extra drip out, give it about a minute on newspaper to drip out. This way has worked. We've gotten, probably 15 or 20 good parts, and about 4 or 5 ones that I've broken, taken out of the mold because I was in a hurry or the phone rang or something. But basically all the parts have come out okay. The air bubble problem looks like, I've done tests with milled fibers, Cabasil. Looks like the Cabasil is still a little bit better than everything else. But I still have one more thing I want to try. I want to try that dry lubricant on this rubber. Once I get enough of these parts made, I'll make up a spare, a spare little one, so I won't have any contamination on it. See, I'll never know if these are still contaminated or they have some PVA on them or whatever. Or if I start with a new mold and only use that other release agent, I'll know I have it. Because we are going to be going up to Midgley's, I hope, at some point in time, to do this fuselage mold, and I really would like to have as much of this technology in the bank before we get there. We'll be videotaping it, and I hope that's going to be one of the neatest parts of the whole summer. I hope we really get something accomplished. I'm sure we will. Again, this is one of the molds I've used over and over to make different parts, multiple cavity molds. You can always strip it off. I've left it soaking thinner overnight and then just put a different finish on. I wanted to try that polyurethane on one of these molds. I guess I ought to try it on that one. I ought to try it on one of them eventually anyway, just to see what kind of result I get on that. Now the problem is, I really want to know this stuff before I go into making up a fuselage mold. A fuselage mold is going to be $300 or $400, and needless to say, a lot of hours. and I want to have as much of this technology as I can in the bank before I run off and spend that kind of money. But when you have a failure on a small mold like this, even if you scrap it and start all over, it's not a big deal. But when you do one for a fuselage mold, it better be perfect. Now I really think we're going to have a unique opportunity to work with somebody in the molding field, or somebody with good molding expertise that's really a world-class guy. He's not just an average, do it for a living and maybe eke out a living guy. He's a world-class guy. And Dave has tried to set up some kind of time frame that we can go up there, maybe for a couple of days, maybe for a weekend. I'm not sure yet, but we're certainly going to, once we have a fuselage plug, a piece that we can use, and we have enough of this technology that I know I can make little parts and have them jump out of the mold without a problem, I'll really feel comfortable about risking the $300 or $400 in material that it's going to take to make that mold. And I'm hoping that once I make that mold, the thing that's going to open the door to is, of course, doing other planes. It'll open the door to making a fiberglass Nobler, a fiberglass Strega, Seafire, whatever. And we might get to the point at some point 20 years from now where you look back and say, holy mackerel, look at that, that was the first one. It may be. And if it isn't, what did we lose? We can always make wooden aeroplanes. We can make them all day long. I've had the best luck, and this is one of the techniques I know I'm going to need if I'm going to make fuselage parts, of actually packing the first coat of the resin, packing it down around the surface. This has some Cabosil in it. And actually I'm just painting and trying to force out as many of the air bubbles or fill in all the little pockets as possible. See, what happens with this kind of, well, I guess any kind of technology, is it's a building block. Once you learn how to walk, you crawl a little bit, then you can walk. Then you walk a little bit, then you can run. Then you run and you find out you run into a telephone pole. You got to run in a straight line. And then you find out you can run in a straight line, but you'd like to run faster. And then at some point in time, it's very challenging. And even if you never were going to make a part like this, at least you look around and you know. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I'm never going to go machine my own motor out of bar stock or out of billets or whatever, or castings. But I love to watch any of the videos, especially the one that K&B has, of how they actually make a motor. It's very interesting to me. So sometimes you find interest in things. I watch all the home shows. I know I'm not going to build the Empire State Building, and the renovations I do around the house with George and with John Batavia, they're really basic things. But I really just like to know. I guess there's that basic hunger for knowledge, or whatever it really is. Now, one of the things I'm going to try here, I'm going to try to sneak something in here. I'm going to fill a mold, and then I'm going to take 2 little strips of that Bob Violet stuff, just as a test, to see if that'll make for these being. A couple of these have broken when I've taken them out of the mold, just to make them a little bit stronger. I'll let some of these air bubbles come out. Again, sometime, I say it over and over again, but it's probably something that is self-evident. Sometimes you just have to invent things. You're faced with a problem, modeling problem. They don't have the canopy you want. They don't have something else you want. So what you do is you invent things. Now, these are those strips, and we've used these as kind of little spars in the making the 5-bladed props. No reason we can't try this. Doesn't work. Didn't cost us much. This stuff's relatively inexpensive. We could just laminate that right in there. And this may be a way of stiffening it up. Now, this has carbon fiber in it, so maybe a way of forcing out some of the air bubbles. I didn't even think about that. In fact, it looks like I can get 2 of them in there. They make this stuff in thicker material. And by the way, this is one of those, I'll bet Noel Drindak would have a good supply of this around. This is when you want to always have the latest high-tech stuff. If the high-tech end of the hobby intrigues you, this is one of the materials you probably want. This stuff has worked well in a lot. You can make spar laminations around motor mounts, belt crank mounts. And it's kind of inexpensive. I think it's about $5 or $6 for a little package. So, well, we'll see how this works out. If it doesn't work out, you'll know about it before this video ends. Every day we harvest the moles and try to pick up a little more information, just get a little smarter, a little more intelligent, have a few more ideas of how we can do things. Okay, and tomorrow we'll see how that worked out. Now, I got up early this morning and I spent about an hour trying to figure out exactly how I could tape off this canopy. Because what I wanted to do is get, and this is something I really didn't think out properly in the whole course thing, I want to get a coat of clear over this, even though this will kind of stay dull, and I'll try not to buff it out, maybe I'll tape it off. But I really wanted to get a protective coat of clear over this. And this really, I'm glad I didn't videotape it. This was really a lot harder and a lot more complex than it looks to get this tape to conform. I put a piece of tape inside and a piece outside and then made like a joint. I was getting frustrated, and it basically took me about an hour. And by then Karen was up, the kids were up, everybody's jumping and jiggling, so I'm back down here. I'm just waiting for it to warm up just a little bit. We'll be ready to shoot the first coat of clear on this, and well, I hope real soon. Worked on this little nose art with the fine pen to get all the points and corners. Before I put that first coat of clear on here, I checked to see that I don't have any major big fingerprints. Any place there was a spot, the tape from this dropped down and pulled up all electrosets. But I really like to make what I call a once over here. And I'm going to try to get, well, I'll try to do it outside, but it may still be too cold. Because my original plan was I was going to try to do this first thing in the morning, as soon as Karen left for work, so it wouldn't stink up the house. But it's all dependent on the temperature. There's a time at which you just have to throw the towel in. If it doesn't warm up, I don't care. I'll do it in by the furnace, but I will get some clear on this today. Now, believe me, it's colder than I thought it was out there. I gave up on even thinking about going outside the thing. What I'm really trying to do is every time I get to an area where there's an incline or an edge, I'm trying to hit it at least 2 or 3 times. I'm going to start at the back of the plane, work up to the wing, but each time I come to an incline, I'm going to try to hit it at least 2 or 3 times. It's cold in here, and I got the heat turned up as high as it'll go. As soon as you open the door, you freeze. Unbelievable. I'm moving to California, that's all there is to it. edges, long edges. Just keep going over them over and over again. This isn't really a real coat of clear, it's really a coat of just getting over the ink lines and edges. And I'm going to let that dry a minute. There's no place else I can touch it. Now I got the heat turned up to 90 in the house as far as it'll go, so this will dry it up. It looks like we got a real dry day. There's no humidity. I'm going to let this dry, I guess, till the end of the day, or maybe even tomorrow. Put the other coat on. But again, the thing you want to avoid doing is rushing at this point in time and putting a lot on. Now I saw one spot up here. I'll see if I can get this. You really can't see it. I don't think you're going to see this on the macro lens, but you can see where I've gotten just a little bit too much clear up here. It started to melt an ink line. Well, that's a good time to quit. And there's a spot in here where I'm going to touch up the canopy. That's going to get all touched up. But that's about enough clear, I guess, for now. Now, depending on how quick the heat dries it up, again, I don't care what the heat costs. I just want to get this dried up as soon as possible. This is the nice part about building with the small parts removed like this. One of the things I can do now, while I'm kind of waiting for this to dry, is I can get another coat on all these small parts. So I'll always be one day ahead on the small parts. Now what it means when it comes time to do the wet sanding, the buffing and that, this piece, the main frame, can all be drying while I'm starting to work on these pieces. So by being one day ahead and flip-flopping ahead like this, I also can work on the molds while I'm waiting for it to dry. And I also have a load of mail to do today, so... Oh, is it cold out there? Well, I waited a good part of the day here to see if the ice was going to melt in the pond, but apparently it isn't. Even though my little thermometer says 34 degrees, I don't think so. Anyway, I'm going to try to paint my little parts outside. The house is all gassed up, and I really didn't want to make it terrible for Karen when she comes home from work. I don't want to have it that she's... Couple of things I learned over the years about painting canopies. What I did here, I made a little fixture. Let me show you this. This slides right on. It's just a roll of paper towels, and it just holds it. And then what I do, I shoot from the back. But you notice it spreads it. Now I know in the past when I've let it dry on this kind of a fixture, it kind of stays out. So what I do, as soon as I get inside, I'll take this off and lay it on the table. This is just to hold it while I'm spraying it. Another thing too is if you have any retarder, like one thing, it is perfectly dry today, but if you had, and the wind is starting to blow, I don't believe this day. It started out looking so good too. If you have any retarder at all, in fact, here's a fingerprint here, I ought to get that off. If you have any retarder at all in the light coat, make another batch with no retarder or you will melt the canopy. Even a little bit of retarder will really be a high-risk thing to melt in the canopy. Whoa, that wind is blowing now. I'm only spraying from the back. That's the whole... And light coats. I'm not giving this a real thick coat. I'd rather give it a light coat, let it go sit by the heating vent an hour or so, but you can see it's got enough on there that I'll be able to buff it out. You always want to be able to buff it out. It's that gloss on the canopy that really makes it look special. And maybe I will even try to, at some point in time, make a fixture so I can paint the inside of this and I can buff the inside, because the inside does have some rivet detail on it I'd like to preserve with a coat of clear. That's the most important thing now is, now I've got the canopy done, get an idea of how much, what to expect. Now we're talking about the second coat of clear, and an idea of, let me look through the lens and see if exactly what that should be looking like with 2 coats of clear on it. And we're not through that first 1/3 of the clear yet, so when I get through to 1/3 of the clear, then I'll start putting on what I call wet coats. This is still dry coats. Now Now, of course, this would all change if you could paint indoors, or if you had some kind of indoor heating system in a garage or something. But for right now, trying to work around Karen and working around this incredibly unpredictable weather, I think we are making some progress, though. But it's important to see that at this point, 2 coats of clear into this is what it should look like. And we've got a little bit extra on the Zeus fittings. Again, getting used to the look that's what's significant. If you know what it's supposed to look like, and it doesn't look like that, then you're doing something wrong and you want to make an adjustment or a correction. Now what's happened, the wind is starting to kick up now, of all things we need to deal with. Anyway, I won't get any more into it than this right now. That's what she should look like. Now one thing that can really be a killer is when the gun gets so cold that you can't touch it. And right now I can hardly touch the gun. So what I'm going to do is bring it inside, let it warm up a little bit, put it a little bit by the heating vent, just get it back to room temperature. I almost can't hold the gun. It's so... Ooh. Once this was dry, I took it outside and flipped it up. Boy, is it getting cold. It's getting colder by the minute. Unbelievable. Anyway, this is all going to dry up now while we work on other stuff. And the temptation here, it's always my own temptation especially, is to, oh, I want to get it done, ready done. Well, the real best advice I can give you is get the first coat on everything, let it dry at least overnight. Second coat at least overnight, and then maybe one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But if you go putting on 2 or 3 coats, you always run that risk of melting stuff. I hate that. You'll only do that once, that's for sure. Oh, my nose is running. Anyway, I demolded from our little test with the little carbon fiber pieces, and that was an excellent idea. Parts come out of the mold a lot nicer and easier, and of course it maintains some structure there. So I think we're gonna. This is the kind of thing you got to stumble on. You got to. If you think you're going to get this right on the first shot, you'll be real lucky, because I have never found that in molding. Molding is just doing it over and over and over, and eventually you get it right whether you like it or not. Now the other thing, the release agent, the dry release agent was working well, but it didn't look like it was working any better than or whatever than the PVA, and the PVA is certainly a lot cheaper. So now we have 2 release agents that are working with this mold, and this is really the cheap rubber. This is really not, this is the kind of stuff anybody can do this. When we get the high silicone rubber, I'm just going to cast up a couple more of these, because I have a couple of these going out to Gary Toltz, and some of them of all places going to Austria. So I want to get some of these made just for stock, but then I'm going to rebuild the mold with the better silicone rubber, and then I think we can go into that we can count that this is in the bank. And those little carbon fiber Bob Violet inserts, perfect. That looks like it was well worth all the testing to come to this point in the mold. Now what I picked up and I want to try, this is a little bit faster hardener. We've been making up the parts with 206. 205 is a little faster hardener, so we're going to be just giving this a test now. I'll run the molds through once with this just to make sure that this is a user. See, this will dry in about half the time, or gel, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm hoping I can get two pulls from the mold each day this way. One of the things that really gives us any of the Spitz or the Seafires their personality is the cannons. Probably been following all the tapes. You know, there's an infinite variety of the machine guns, the machine gun locations, combinations of machine guns and cannons, double cannons, single cannons, cannons to the outboard, cannons to the inboard. There's almost every combination you can think of. Kind of sad last year that one of the things I ran out of time doing, it was the cannons and the blisters. Those were 2 of the things that I felt would have been a nice upgrade to the plane. Just ran out of time. Well, you look at some of these exploded views of how a Spit or a Seafire was really made. Kind of interesting. And of course the real late ones, which we may or may not be modeling next year. See, they have the different tips. The real late model Spits, the 24s, 21s and 22s, and the late model Seafires had double cannons. So if we're happy with the way these work out, next year we can do double cannons. Double blisters and double cannons. And I guess that's one of the things that I've thought about constantly from the day of the Spitfires. Wanted to have those cannons. And this is pretty much the one we're going to try to simulate, where they had one cannon and one port for a cannon that was blocked off. We just shot this picture with the shells falling away. Cool. This is one of my favorite pictures taken off of a carrier deck here. One of the clipped wing variants. Now with all these pictures here, hey, by the way, that's something I didn't think of. Maybe even Joel will think about doing that, putting the invasion stripe where it would retract into the wing, right onto the gear. That's a cool idea. There's certainly enough variations on cannons here that we can have a little free reign of how we want to do it. And I really feel like that cannon is an important part of making it an authentic plane. And I'm really sorry I missed on doing that last year. So many variations, and that is one of the really attractive things of the Spitfire Seafire series. Is so many variations of nice things to work on. I guess this is the best picture of the cannon that we have up close, so we can kind of get a real view of what the cannon and its replacement plug, that plug on the side, would look like. So working from this, let me go over and get the balsa tubes unraveled, see if we have usable material, and start to get this framed up. We have a little bit of time left this morning before it's time to go to work. Now I still have the balsa tubes in here to make the cannons, but we had a little bit of a change of plan. Bob Sabatino just called up, and he'd like to work on his upcoming concourse winning Nobler this afternoon, so I'm going to put this on the back burner, try to do the mail, and give Bob a hand this afternoon and see how he's doing on that Nobler. Now while I'm waiting for Bob, he's already left his house. Robert, I should say, not Bob. He likes to be called Robert, I gotta remember that. Anyway, these have been sitting here a long time, and I'm going to need the ace bandages, so let's get these ready. Just take a look at what we have here. In terms, we had these little prototypes, we had these molded up on here. We got another one, in fact. These are going to ultimately, I hope, become part of the cannons. I probably won't have enough time to really do any serious work on this today, but it'd be nice if I can at least go over by the plane and get an idea of what they're going to look like. I've been thinking about this for a long time. This is really one of the key things I'm looking forward to on this plane. Now see, this is stuck. Got to kind of pry it open. Whoop. Oh, famous last word. Kind of unroll it a little bit, and out comes the tube. Okay, now we have they're multi-layered tubes. This one's kind of ginky. This end looks okay though. But that's why I made plenty. So, and I'm only going to need this for about 2 inches, but I made plenty so that these tubes can now become part of the cannons. Now see, by just plugging them in like this is going to give me my diameter. I'm not going to even cut this right now. I just want to see obviously I have enough. I could look how this would look, the world's biggest cannon. Even one tube would be enough, but this way I have extra. Now what I'll do is I'll put this in place and slit it. Put some tape on it.
and then just run that glue seam on the inside. I want that to dissipate. And I'm going to carve, this is my plan anyway, and the reason I'm putting this on, I'll have some time to think about it. Then I can taper the cone part down and maybe use a little piece of aluminum or brass tube, and then I have to set a blind nut into the wing. Now this one will be, or a screw, I'm sorry. This one I'm just going to make a plug that sticks out maybe a quarter of an inch or so, and then put a cap on the front. So anyway, having that in the bank, at least I have those out, and I'm ready for whenever Robert gets here with his Nobler. We'll see how he's doing.
My wingtip, I already got the
Okay, you already got a lead-out guide now? Okay.
This is my
That's the tip with the block, okay. And you don't have to hollow that out. You don't have to be...
I put a little brass in here so when I tighten down I wouldn't...
That's fine. Alright, that's good. And you got the wing skinned. How'd the wing come out? Nice? Oh, geez. It's perfect. Let's see if it's straight. See, always sight it down that way. That looks good. This is Scott Smith's cores. You got the flaps. Alright, you got the Ruddermaid, you got the flaps, the body. You ready for the turtle deck?
Yep.
Okay, now what we'll do first, because we can work on the wing while this is drying, I want to mold up the turtle deck first. I got that mold, and I want to see if we can make one for a Nobler out of that Spitfire turtle deck. Now it turns out we measured this up, and this almost exactly fits where a Nobler would. If we reference the wire off the top of the fuse, the front is too long, but if we end it right here, from here to the back, it's almost, I don't think it's off a 1/16 of an inch. So we're going to try to get some thin sheeting and get this mold drying while we work on the wing. I think that's going to be fine. You won't have any trouble with that. Only use the wire. See, you're wider at the bottom,
Yeah.
but you're real close. The wire's going to end right there, and it's going to be lower. Jeez, that's almost. Now we'll have to get an Nobler canopy for this too, of course. Okay, so first thing we got to do is join up some skins before we can do anything. Let's join up some skins. At this, we realize we have 4-inch sheeting. This is 045 wing skin wood. We just can make it. We couldn't make it on a Spitfire because it's bigger in the front, but a 4-inch piece just does make it. So you need, the first thing is, let's cut the piece. Let's get a, give me the, it's under here, give me the T-square. Let's get a 90-degree cut on that wood. Start with a 90-degree cut, even though we're not going to use it, and we'll leave it hang off the back maybe a quarter of an inch. Make that cut, then we'll figure out the length. Just mark it so you don't have to cut it over your plans. Got a pen? And that'll be your length. Then take the triangle, you might have to walk it over on the table, get a nice 90-degree cut on that too. It's nice that we're going to be able to do this in one piece wood. Now you need 2 pieces that size. You got to make 2. We're going to make 2 laminations. Get a new pen if that one isn't writing. Have the 90. Now you need to replicate. You need 2 pieces like this and maybe 3. I think 2 is going to be enough. So just take that piece and trace it. Where's that other piece of wood we had? Up on a bar? Okay. Now anybody that's ever carved a Nobler turtle deck, it calls for some half-inch sheet and a block and hollowing, and then you'd have a glue seam, and it's a lot of work. It's a labor-intensive thing to make this according to plans, but I think we're going to be able to duck a bullet here. If we can use that Spitfire mold, boy, that saves us. And of course, anybody that does a Nobler can call up and say, hey, Windy, I want to, give me a top block. Just duplicate it, and you got it made. Roll it, just roll the mold. And that shows you roughly how much you have to trim off. And see, you can trim this piece off, otherwise it hangs off here and it gets crushed by the bench. Roll it back, and then trim both pieces. You can trim both pieces at once. That's thin wood. Do it with a ruler. Trim them both, and then we're ready to, we'll get the ammonia out and we'll be ready to work on that. Then while that's drying, we can work on a wing. We can get that belt. What we have is some 1.5 ounces. You can make it, yeah, that's good, a 1/4 inch bigger. 1.5 ounces fiberglass cloth. And we're trying to make it just a little bit bigger here. It doesn't have to go right to the end. We're going to sand it all out anyway. And notice we're doing it over newspaper. And then what Robert's going to do is take a brand new scalpel. I know you got a new one there somewhere. And don't cut yourself with that scalpel, and just cut right over the newspaper. Always over a couple of sheets of newspaper like this is the best way to cut fiberglass cloth. A little practice cut. Practice. Okay, you getting a nice neat cut?
Yeah.
Okay, once you practice, take a few practice shots and then come up onto the piece. Hold it with your fingers. You might have to move your fingers down a little bit as you go. Sometimes you can get it just, if it's cutting, you don't have to press too hard. You're only trying to cut just that one piece. And it's really the only way I know to get a real nice neat cut on fiberglass cloth. Hey, it's coming out good, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfecto. It doesn't have to be real perfect, it doesn't have to go right to the edge, but I want to have that laminated inside there like a real sandwich. Okay, that's great. Okay, so for right now we don't even need that glass cloth. Go put that in your box. We only need the 2 pieces of wood right now. Okay, now I'm trying to give Bob a little, Robert I should say, a little, you should hear what kids used to call me when I was a kid, putz-o-matic and everything. Anyway, yeah, both sides. You see how the wood changes shape as soon as you wet one side? The wood cells are all under tension, now they're relieving the tension. That's what allows you to change the shape with a mold. Soak it good, don't fool around. If you're going to soak it, soak it. Ammonia's cheap. Cheaper than pizza. Thanks to John Pothy, he sent me some real nice molding pins that we're using just to hold us in position. And we're going to start at one end with the ace bandage, and we'll start wrapping it. As you get there, take the pin out, wrap it right down to the end. Now as you come down to where the pin is, take the pin out. Okay, take one pin, and boy, those pins, hey, by the way, John, those pins are great. Perfect for molding. They're really razor sharp. I don't know where we got them. Okay, and kind of squeeze it as you go along. See, just so you, this is why you want to trim that wood off, otherwise right now the wood wraps around the end of the mold. Robert, if you had any idea how long it takes to carve this block, and you'll never get it that hollow, I don't care. If Midgley does it, it won't be that hollow. Just go right to the end and then we'll put another pin or tape or whatever. Okay, it's up by the heating vent. That should be dry in a couple hours. It will delaminate it. And then we're going to try putting that fiberglass cloth in between the layers. That'll work good, I think. With our center line, and what we're working off is the holes that Scott uses to nail the templates on. You want to run the ruler right so the line goes right through the center of those holes. Get a center line, and then we're going to bring it around the leading edge so we have a center line on the leading edge. We need to do all 4 edges, Bob. All 4 edges. And then we're going to connect the line. So there's going to be a center line around each panel, around the whole wing, on each panel. Do the both end pieces first. It's easier if you do the end pieces first. And then we'll just connect the dots with the larger ruler. I got the 48-inch ruler. Yeah, just do both sides and then connect the dots. And you want to try to get the line, if you can, to go right through the middle of the holes. See, those are the holes that he uses the templates to hold the templates on. Up around a corner. Now you got it. See, now, here's a good example. You carved this leading edge. It's not exactly right, but the center line's going to tell you when it's right. Okay, get that end. I'll hold this end. Get a pen that has some decent ink in it. Try to hold the pen at 90 degrees. Wait a minute, I'm not on center here. Okay. Yeah, you gotta... Okay, I'm on my side. There you go. And these thin line pens are real nice. These are Pilot thin line pens. Okay, let's do the trailing edge. Without a center line, you're really, in real trouble when you draw to line things up. Okay, this one's on. You're on. Now that's for your hinge pockets, and when we join the wing together, I want to know that it's straight. Without that line, I can never tell.
What happens when I've been doing is like, I go like this.
You always reference off the lines when he cuts the foam. Those lines are accurate. Doing is scoring up a little piece of tubing. All you need to do is score it, make sure it goes around the whole piece. Okay, and then just grab it with pliers and break it. You'll have 2 little pieces of tubing.
think I scored it.
Okay, if you mess it up, just do another one. The best way to learn is with hands on. If you screw it, okay, don't worry, make another one. I'm not looking to set the world on fire. Screw it a little harder. That's it. You can cut it with a parting wheel, a hacksaw, you can bite it off, it won't really matter.
It's like
Okay,
moving on me.
okay. Ah, you got it, okay. Now just throw that one away and make another one. Yeah, because the other one, oh, you got two, okay. Yeah, I didn't see you had two. Okay, slide that up on a wire. You watch the Nobler videos, you know how to do this. We put these bends in the wire. This is just a rough bend, and by the way, this is 032. 032. This is the bell crank that Scott Smith sells. It's plenty good bell crank for a Nobler. It's a 4-inch bell crank, by the way, not a 3-inch. Okay, now you want to get the other one on there, same way. I'll go get the soldering gun so we can solder that. Before we set up the soldering iron, a couple of tips. Bend that back with a pair of wire cutters. Make sure this is 90 degrees. You don't want to have it, in fact this one isn't. We'll put a little tweak in here. We can just tweak it down so that it kind of is a straight pull. Number 2, always use straight, stay bright solder, not plumber's solder, because it melts at 400 degrees. It won't melt a big hole in your bell crank. You want to use stay bright only. Make sure it's plenty hot and it's smoking before you put that. Let me get over on this side so you do that. Okay. Let it melt on the gun itself first. This way you're not holding the wire. It's probably not hot enough yet. Just give it a second or so. See, that gun is not hot enough yet. That's because it's a bullshit old gun. Ken Thompson using the camera now to his advantage. It still needs to be hotter, Bob. Wait till you have a blob of hot, wet solder on the end of that gun. If you rush it, let it even get extra hot. Otherwise, what happens, you hold it on a brass so long that you melt the bell crank, and then we're going to have to make another bell crank up. You want to get that on and get it off in 2 seconds. Okay. Get a nice, well, hold it right on that solder joint. You got it okay, right on the solder joint. It's going to wrap around. That's it, now just go right around the whole thing. That's it. Now sometimes you have to do this, you have to just put some more flux on there. Okay, go hit it right again, hit it, don't fool around. Sometimes that just clears off the contaminant, and never take your finger off the trigger. Yeah, that gun needs to be tuned up or something. This thing is shot. It was shot the last time I used it too. Just use a torch.
Yeah. Okay, let's get another gun going. Forget about that.
Okay.
So it's not sitting on the brass for 10 minutes. There you go. Instantly. Now you got a joint instant. Okay, take it away. You're done. See, when the gun is working right.
This thing
That's fine. That's the way it is.
Okay.
Just leave it the way it is. Wait and we'll deflux it. Baking soda and water. Don't deflux it while it's...
Okay, what we want to do, what is this one weigh? Move it over, 106? Okay, so you know this is the heavier of the two. The other one's 105. So this is, mark this up, this is the outboard panel. This is the one the bell crank's going to have to go in. You want the heavy wing panel on the outside. Okay, if we're on the camera, you can see that it's got a little bit of a bow in it. Now what we did is a dry fit. With tape on here, tape on the side, and it's telling us that this side needs a couple of shots with the sanding block. You understand why? Because if you did nothing now, you would have to put so much, you can see what we're talking about. It has a little bit of a bow going this way, just a little bit, it's walking that way. So if I shorten this, if I take some material, just like a piece of sheetrock, this is gonna bow back that way. So for the high spot, see when I pull this together,
Yeah.
it's gonna hit, where does it hit first? Right about there, right?
Yeah.
Over here you got a gap, but up here it's hitting.
Right.
So you want to take out, just look for the high spot. Look for where it hits first. It
Okay,
looks
so
like
it's
right in here, right in there. So just take out a sanding block, anything. It doesn't matter even which side you're sanding. Because even if you just get rid of the high spot, the rest of it will kind of lock in like a tooth. Now where is it hitting? Now see, now it's a gap, so now we can hit it back here just a little bit.
You're only taking a little off.
Oh yeah, because otherwise you got to turn around and do the other side. But now the trick is, the same thing is you get one side of this down, and then you need to stretch it like a rubber band. See how that pulls it right into tension? Hold one side down, stretch it like a rubber band, and let that pull it back into tension. Same thing back here. This is, we may have to put new tape. Sometimes, about the third time you use the tape, it doesn't stick. Let's get one more piece of tape on here, just to make sure that we're not... Because once you put the belt crank in, this is difficult to do. It's easy to do now. Okay, now let's this is not sitting straight. Should have a pin in it. Okay, that looks real good now. That looks as good as we're going to possibly get it. Take and sight it down. Get used to sight and everything. Okay? Look straight to you. If it doesn't, you know you got to sand the high side. First, try more tape to squeeze it in place. Yeah, this you don't have this line isn't lining up here. You should put a, yeah, I could put a pin in there, but then you can't sight it. But you understand what I'm saying? The two choices are you can put more tape. If that doesn't do it, then all you need to do is hit the high spot, look for the spot where it's hitting, and you know you're home for
Now we turn it over.
All that's doing is holding it while we center it all up. Okay, make sure it's in the middle. Move it through its, let me see something. Move it through its travel, it's not hitting anything. Nice and smooth? Okay. Now, just let's put this in here.
Is this hitting over here?
Oh, we're going to cut that away. That's no problem. We'll cut that away. Okay. Okay, all we need is one drop of thin CA here to just to hold this, and I don't want to melt the foam. Let me get the thin CA. All this is going to do is just hold it while we're puttering around. Right here it is. The epoxy is going to hold it, not this. If it eats the foam, you don't give a shit about that. Okay, Robert.
This here?
The little one. Belt crank's permanently mounted. Trim it this way. Trim it this way. This just gets this stuff out of your road. Okay, we can take that off with a joint away. And make that fancy later. Because we're going to sand this joint anyway, so while we sand the joint, we'll sand that. Okay, now all that one drop of CA is just holding it in position while we're working on it. Okay. Alright, let's get ready to join the wing up. This epoxy's going to kick off. And if it because what'll happen, the tape will start to let go. You want to babysit it.
So then it's better to theoretically to use 5-minute epoxy, because if you use
or you got to babysit it all night or an hour. And don't poke your eye out with the lead outs. Hold that up.
But if you're babysitting it and you had 30 minutes, you still wouldn't put it in the cradles?
Nah, no cradles. No cradles. This way is better.
Okay.
The center line is straight. Your eye doesn't lie. You could do a lot of things with magician stuff. Your eye shows you. You look down a straight road. If it's crooked, you can see it right away. Okay, you want to put some glue on here.
Okay.
Like, put some on here. Do this. Make sure you have a good glue joint. See, to make sure it's everywhere. You want to glue wood to wood. You don't care about the foam. Forget about, everybody worries about the foam. The foam doesn't do anything. Make sure you have a complete, there's this foam close. Okay, and let's make sure you're on center, and then tape it just like I did there. Okay, we got the whole crew in action here. Okay, you're putting on the leading edge on the flaps. Jimmy's showing you how to do that. This is what's nice about Monday night at Wendy's. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's stealing something. Everybody's pickpocketing my expensive shiny chrome tools. What do we got here, Ken? This is the Nobler parts?
This is the Nobler parts that we had here.
Okay, let's see what kind of progress you got.
And everything.
Ooh, nice wheel pants. Hey, where'd you get those wheel pants?
I stole them from Joe Ortiz here.
Yeah, they are nice, I'll tell you. Mike Costello's looking to buy a pair. That may be our pizza money tonight. Hey, Mike, he won't give you the wheel pants. Costello might be here later, too.
But,
Bobby, when that gets real dusty, vacuum it up, otherwise you're gonna breathe that in all night. Just run the vacuum on it.
what I'm looking forward to at this point, what I'm working towards is getting to the point of putting filler on.
Okay.
And so
By the way, this is a nice, I run my hand on this before, this is a nice sanding job. But see, you still have little, I don't know if you can see, you can still sand a little more. Right around the edges especially.
Okay, so I should take that.
Where you see the little shiny spots, you can hit that again. Just a
Well,
little
what
more.
happened was I started building up clear on these areas, and it started getting lumpy. Figure out.
Because it's too thick. Put more thinner in it, more thinner.
So I sanded it down.
Yeah, you don't want to sand this. Right. This you could put more on, but put thinner coats.
Okay,
If
so
you want it, come over during the day and we'll spray it.
okay, then I'll do that, because
Spray it on and just hang it up to dry.
I've been sanding and
Yeah, it's too cold to paint out there right now, boy.
I wanted this to get ready to,
Yeah, okay.
for clear. Now these,
And this came out real nice. I looked at this before. This is really good.
all of this has been,
That's
cut
good.
out all the bays,
You did,
sanded it,
okay,
recovered everything with medium.
okay.
And these, I don't know whether it's a trick or not, but you had wanted me to sand them.
Yeah.
I took them and flooded them with thinner.
That'll
And
do it.
peeled off the old
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, you can do it acetone too. You
And
can,
then did it that
in fact,
way.
Peabody's gonna bring his SV11 wing here. We're gonna pull all the covering off his SV11 wing tonight.
3 coats of clear with a little dye in it.
Yeah, okay, that looks good.
So this
I
is,
love the wheel pant. That's probably the nicest set of Nobler wheel pants. Now, the guy who would love these, Noel Drindak, I bet Noel's probably going, oh, wait till Ken's at a contest. I'll just unscrew these puppies in 2 weeks later. Because he invents little cool things like that, too.
now these, you know,
Noel, if they're missing, you're dead, man.
I took these and I sanded them down.
Yeah.
And I put a coat of filler on them, and what I found out was I started pulling up a little grain, so I may have sanded them too much.
Yeah, you can always put more on. It doesn't matter. You're real close here. What I like to do with this wing now, see, because you're a little lumpy here, just sand it very little. Try to get that there's no high spots.
Okay.
And then next time it's paintable, it's got to be dry and it's got to be above 40 degrees. We'll blow a coat of clear on this with the gun. Then you don't have to sand it at all.
Well,
And this, you need more clear on the tissue, maybe one coat.
one more coat.
See, the tissue should look like the edges here, where they're just a little shiny. Put one more coat on by brush, but
has-
thin. Take whatever you have and
Now
put
you're an expert, you did one.
20% more thinner in it.
Okay.
You got thinner? You got a whole gallon, right?
That's the idea.
I have a gallon. I want to get
You got
another
just
gallon.
the
Though. There's
idea.
some 3806.
They have it down at Shore.
No paper or anything.
Yeah,
And then I decided to use it as kind of a trial horse for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
nobler stuff.
It's a little all-American, right?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
papered it, you know, put some clear on it,
Yeah, yeah.
filler on it, sanded it, filler, sanded
But
it.
see, you're getting this technique down real close now. The only you're off by very little. You're off by one sanding, and
Okay.
it'll be perfect. And it won't be. It'll be no different than if I did it. You know, it'll be really nice, easy to buff out and everything.
There's still some places where it's not
The
perfect.
Noble is 1,000% better than the last time you had it here. I mean, it's an airplane now. Now it's a piece of. Okay, what he's doing. We're trying to get the cloth so that the grain is in an X mode, not straight up and not span-wise. In an X, it's the most efficient. Cut with a brand new, nice new shiny scalpel, cut your finger off, and we're going to be ready to glass the wing. Tips are drying, so if we can get this glassed up tonight, that might... You're definitely going to get this glassed tonight, even if the phone starts ringing off the hook. And just make 2 of them. And then we need to make some, what amounts to be Band-Aids. All right, Robert, paint away. Make it a little bit bigger than the ellipse that you're going to put on there. This is the epoxy where one tube is twice the size of the other. Go out about a 1/4 inch past where you think you need it, and just brush it right in. Oh, phone time. Technique, just fingertips and spread it out like a sun. Start in the middle, make a sun.
You're running in a lot.
Then we'll get the hair dryer, thin it out.
Around here, if you try to run straight uniflow, the wind actually richens you out and leans you out back and forth every lap. Now that's the main reason I use
Use the can for the scraper. Start in the middle and just,
Yeah, I always
as soon as you get some on a trowel, wipe it off. There you go.
just type it down.
There you go. Pro stun. Oh, look at this guy. I'm telling you, you'll be teaching high school in 2 weeks, Robert. Okay, that looks good.
Sometimes if it's not a...
The low setting gives you plenty of time to work. And keep in mind, epoxy kicks off quicker when it gets hot, so you don't want to get it any hotter than it has to be.
A little softer. Yeah. It's a 2
And then we'll put that piece right down the middle. I'll go cut that piece right now. So we can use the one batch of epoxy. Just like a sun, start in the middle and work out in all directions.
15 different things, and I always go back to one another.
Keep it nice and warm with the hairdryer.
In the header itself, not in the...
Okay, this can sit out here. Everything's ready to dry. Glass is drying. We're working our turtle deck.
I'm not gonna sell you anything.
Okay, there you go.
I've been doing that lately.
Just take the bandage off and you should have two shells there. Peel them off real slow. So you got to break the seal.
He knows you.
Break it, break it. There you go.
You get served.
What we did,
We'll send it out.
we put some tin foil on a mold. Take the glass off for a second.
Nope, and he's...
We put the first piece from the shell, get that in position. We're going to take and paint this with some very thin epoxy, put the glass cloth on and put the other piece of the shell on top and wrap it back up. The only reason the tin foil's there is to keep, if any epoxy oozes out, from getting on our plug. Okay, let's mix some epoxy.
You'd be surprised how quiet.
Just a real thin coat, just like with glass and oil, and then lay that glass cloth on there.
So if you want, I could put you on with him.
Lot of nerve not bringing food. There's the food.
We sent him back for the onions. He almost...
No onions! Ah! Burgers without onions! We cannot have that thing happen! Instead of pizza, look at this, the first night in six years of Monday night. Oh my God, oh my God. Eat your, take the phone off the hook. I want to eat this in peace. Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
I end up throwing all the ribs out.
Now these are SV11 ribs, and Rich is trying to figure out how to get a rod hole. First, why don't you punch all the ribs out? Mark them, and
Which is 12.
we're going to put a hole in the back of the
You
ribs.
don't need to mark these. Here, let me show you how these come marked. Where's a saw? Let me have a razor.
What do you want?
Here, look at it.
Okay. We're always receptive to wisdom, like Teflon to a duck.
That's building this kit, right?
Unfortunately, we can't
And
retain
these ribs are, these panels are numbered.
Okay, that sounds reasonable enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're all shown in full size on the plan, right? It's dead silence.
exactly.
May the record reflect. There was dead silence when I questioned.
Not
it.
exactly.
That was not
Here's a number 3 sheet, right? And this is a number 3 sheet.
Okay, reasonable
That's a
enough.
4 sheet. Would you think 4 sheet would be bigger or smaller?
Let's see.
All right, there's a 4 sheet. And that's a 4 sheet. You can tell because the laser cut the number. Here's a 2 sheet. Where would the 2 sheet go? You think the 2 sheet would go over there, huh?
Wait, Rich, there's only 3 ribs on the 2 sheet.
The 2 sheet might go over here.
Don't tell them, there's only 3
there's the
ribs.
1 sheet.
Why do you have 3 number 2s and 3 number 1s?
You got two of each.
Two.
Oh,
You got
okay.
2 of each, but the way the wing actually
It's reversed.
assembles is 2.
Well, don't they tell you directions or the video or?
No.
Or they
no.
just say,
I guess some Southerners are smart enough to figure this out all by
Boy, Randy, you made a mistake selling this bozo on camera. Sam Sharada had no problem putting one of these together in an afternoon. So what you're saying is 4 hours from now, you're not going to have a wing with all the sheeting on and the gear blocks in?
Right,
What do you think,
just
crew?
take it out of
I don't
you
think
just
so.
Take it out of the box.
We did it.
Put the rod holes in it, and 4 hours later, you'll have a wing.
Here,
Quit
Wendy, lay
puttering.
one of these suckers up and start.
Jimmy, let's put the hole. You need to take the smallest rib. All you need is the biggest one and the smallest one.
Now, it might be in the middle of the number 3 panel.
almighty.
Oh, you know what? 2 of these are
But
exactly,
Count von Zeppelin probably started this way,
2 of
too.
these are exactly the same.
Can you picture Sabatino? Can you imagine in World War I they're building one of these Fokker Schmitz or something?
Did you see that?
to be put the rib holes.
Did you see that on TV yet?
No, what's that?
The Fokker.
No, I know it's on TV. I was going to build that plane for the
Yes, I
guy.
say, did you see it yet?
Okay, your center line. This
How
is
big is
a
the tube?
no-brainer.
How big is the tube?
The tube is 3/8. Where's the piece of tubing? I already took it out. This is out of the official Windy Cardinal stack. Yeah, what's happening? We're mating an SV11 with a Cardinal. We're gonna have a Cardinal with, I don't know what this is gonna be.
How about a
Which I have a wing.
Do it off the smallest rib or you're gonna be in
No,
trouble.
I've got a rod. I know how to do it. You don't need to.
No, I can say, if you
Oh.
Well, I'd have to say everybody in the room has a rod. Let's not get boastful.
Focus, Schmidt. Come on, put this on. Look at this. Now, see, Jimmy, I do it by eye. Jimmy does it the intelligent way. Oh,
All
man.
right.
Count von
Here's
Zeppelin
two
would be
that are
proud,
Two that are
Jim.
exactly the same and two
Okay.
that are different. Those are small.
Okay. You need all you need is one of the smallest ribs. Why are you making it so complicated?
The one, he grabbed that bigger rib.
Don't try to find the smallest rib.
You can't find, there's 8 ribs and you can't find the smallest one. 2.5 hours. Count von Zeppelin would be very unimpressed. It's a stack.
He uses on the end rib, he does it this way to get that,
All right.
the wingtip.
So you need the last, next to the
Oh, there you
last
go,
one.
James.
Take the last one, measure up 1 inch from the end, Jimmy. Put a center line, measure up 1 inch, make one rib as a pattern, and this is going to be a 5-minute job.
Right here.
Yeah, in the garbage. Garbage, holy cow. Don't stick your hands in there, you'll come out looking like a pincushion.
Edge, huh?
Yeah, actually, it's better that he's got a fat trailing edge. You can get the rib holes in there easier. Okay, there you go.
It starts at a half. That's the, it's a little vague.
Well, this is the tip, so it's a half.
It's a little vague.
The rib itself?
It's 8 o'clock. By midnight, we can have this wing framed and have the gear blocks in, as long as crew goes home.
Why is it Bob's fault?
It's always Bob's fault.
I know, but I thought I'd ask why.
We're real concerned. We're not real concerned with getting the whole front to back right, because it can be, as long as they're all the same, it's okay. But you do want it the same top to bottom. Okay. Give me hack lines.
I like that.
Get the old piece of wood out of the tubing. Take that out. Now, that's a razor blade there, Jim, so just pull that out or push it down. Okay.
That's something I would say.
Yeah, I know, play the flute. Cut over a piece of balsa wood, you can cut over one of the old extra pieces, and twist it as you push it through, and you'll make a perfect hole every time. Count von Zeppelin, they build Zeppelins this way, no problem.
Oh, yeah?
That's why they crashed.
On the Fatherland?
Perfect, Jimmy. Oh my God, this is so pretty. Adamusko would be even happy with this.
Yeah?
Okay, you got one. That might not need a resharpen. Now, all you want to do is make sure every one is the same distance from the trailing edge. So use this for your pattern. And do one at a time.
Stack.
Jimmy made up a little fixture.
Years ago.
It's really just a dead stop.
We used to have a lot of fun down
You
there.
push the rib up on the dead stop. Make sure it's even on the trailing edge.
I was up there right
Take the sharpened tubing, put the hole in the rib. Now what you can do, now you got the mark. Oh, this is high tech, I'm so happy. And when you're all done, line all the ribs up together, put the rod in it, put a bolt, a rod, anything. We got a bolt right here. And you'll know if they're all straight. It'll be perfect.
Gotta sharpen this up a little.
To announce, ladies and gentlemen, there's a major announcement in the world of stunt. Rich Peabody has decided to judge the team trials. Uh-oh, he's going for the bathroom. Make a speech,
There
Rich.
is the big bag of money.
Oh, God almighty. I'm in. Start ordering the trips to Helsinki or wherever the hell it
in
is.
his application and already coming out of the fax is the list of winners.
Oh, God.
So you don't forget. Here's
I told him you only write the score down after the guy flies. He doesn't get it. He still thinks the flights count. I don't know what's wrong with him. Ribs.
Right
Let's
there.
see the ribs. Okay.
Fine.
Now, the next time we see these ribs, this is going to be in the world's straightest SB11 wing. Is that correct? And you'll be the head judge at the team trials. So I'm going to Chablinsky. Or where are they having it? In Chernobyl this year or
I
something?
had to sign off and say I wasn't going to be a coach.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So if we're up the field and I'm flying, like, you're going to look the other way, right? You're not going to pull one of
I
these.
always do.
Oh, my God. And no going to the bathroom while I'm flying either. All right. You're going to do the flat points next, right, Jim?
Gonna square it off and then.
All right, square it off first.
Okay.
Okay, now, believe it or not, we have a reasonable day out there to do some painting. And you always can expect when it's this time of year, everything is hit or miss. So before I do anything this morning, before we even take a chance that we're going to lose the day. I want to get another coat of clear on everything. And then while that's drying, I can be working on other stuff. Talked to Noel Drindak and Bob Aronstein last night. Had our little, obviously, Monday night session here with hamburgers at Wendy's, or whatever you want to call it. And he said he's already run the retracts through their cycle, and the only thing he's got to do, that he hasn't figured out how to do yet, is get the doors to close, in the cycling mode. So he's going to be coming down here, and this is the good news. He's going to be coming down here to use up the paint that we have left over from this project on his Mosquito. So we should have we definitely will be videotaping that. Document that for all you lovers of twin-engine planes. Now, considering the temperature out there, I'm going to try to get this coat on just a little bit thinner. So into that mix, I'll empty the gun. And now each succeeding coat, I'm just going to add just a little bit of thinner. So each coat that goes on should lay down just a little bit flatter and a little bit flatter. This coat sealed up, it doesn't look like we've melted anything. The canopy especially I was concerned about. It all looks fine. We can just little by little by little start adding some thinner to this mix. Best, as always, is to do the small parts, and since it's really colder than I thought it was out there. But as each coat gets a little thinner, it'll lay down, dry just a little bit smoother, I guess is the right word, when we get out there and start painting. Get a little idea how that paint's laying down out there. Now obviously a couple things happen. When it's cold like this, paint takes longer to dry, so if you were to leave this in a cold environment, hey, that would be fine, but it would probably take 2 or 3 days to dry out as opposed to leaving it in here with the heat turned up. Now again, the mix is just a little bit thinner. When you're starting to get the mixture thinner and thinner, the thing you want to watch for, in fact, I'm getting this is a little too thin. When you start bordering on having a run, go back and see, I have that mixture split into 3 jars. I'll add from the thicker jar. That's a little bit too thin. But that's going on there. I don't know if you can see that. That's going on like water. That's a little too thin. I've gone a little too far now so I can thicken up the mix. It may seem like overkill, but it really isn't. Is getting this paint to flow in the temperature that we're spraying on is a critical thing. That's going on better. I guess a good test would be if you spray it once and it's totally wet, the paint is too thin. That would be one way of just telling. Like when we did that Scott Smith spray seminar. It's one of the questions everybody wants to know. Should it be 50-50 thin or 60-40? No. It's got to relate to the temperature. And today, I'm guessing, we have water in a pond. That's why I put the camera out this way. So it's above 32 degrees out here, but now I have to spray that 3, 4, maybe 5 times to get it to shine. And if you see that, that's about how I like to have it. So 3, 4 passes, and that should be just about what's happening here. In fact, I'm choking to death here. It's cold. Yes. Boy, I'm getting sick. I guess another way to look at this is consider the mixture to be almost like the mixture on a needle valve. Getting that paint thinner or thicker. I'm trying to come up with some kind of a ballpark formula here, but what you can do is if you've gone back and forth 4 or 5 times and it looks nice and shiny like that, I guess that's telling you that you're real close. And now when you put this in a warm environment to dry, that paint will just dry up beautifully. Normally what I like to do with the cowling is get maybe 3, 4 coats of clear on, and then put a couple of coats of Imron, at least 1 coat of Imron. The only problem is we don't have any more. The stuff we have is 10 years old. And unless I can come up with some source of Imron, I'm going to try to just get away with having a cowl just lacquered, doped, whatever you want to call it. But it really is a nice thing if you can get your hands on some Imron. A fiberglass cowl with Imron should really be durable. And if you ever notice on an old plane, go look at a plane 10 years old. The first thing that wears out is the cowling. The plane is beautiful and the cowling looks like somebody hit it with a ball-peen hammer. Now if it gets a little warmer out here today, it'll be real nice, but right now this is about the coldest I like to paint outside, right here. and it's probably just above 30, 32 degrees freezing. Well, with this is I just painted one side, let it dry, hour or so, and then I just hold it upside down and get the inside. So I've got dope on both sides of this. I actually can buff out both sides of this canopy when I'm done. Again, anytime you're painting a canopy, be real conservative. No thin paint. Don't try to put it on in thick coats. You don't want to get too cute. This stuff melts just like it was paint. Now what I try to do is every step of the way, get extra paint on the edges, extra paint anywhere there's an ink line, anywhere there's a paint edge. There you can see just when we want it to lead, the wind is picking up. I don't believe this. Now what's really difficult is yesterday when I was painting this, I was hanging it from the lead outs, and this side really didn't get enough material. It got painted, it got some, but I can tell by the feeling that it got sprayed dry. It never really got a nice wet coat. So what I'm going to do is, laying it in this position, paint this surface, go around the whole side of the fuselage, this edge, anything I can spray from this side, then go into the other room and hang it up by the lead outs. And as you would expect, the day looks like it's going down the drain in a hurry. I'm glad I got out here early to start this. This is the area where we didn't get yesterday real well. And once that dries, I can hang it by the wire in there, and then do the other side, and then do all the vertical surfaces. What I've been trying to figure out here, while paint is drying, several of the choices, I had these tubes. When I cut them up, I just felt like they really weren't really strong enough, but I'm not going to abandon that approach. What I did, I took a piece of scrap wood, just shoved it in the chuck of a drill press, sanded it down. I see the purpose of this is I want to make a prototype cannon up. And then what I want to decide is, do I want to make it longer, shorter, fatter, wider, more taper, less taper? But I need something to start with. I always need a square one. And this, just a piece of scrap wood that I had cut out of this block, just to get some idea of what the overall size should be on this. Let's see, with that piece in there, it just gives me an idea of if it's too big, too small. It looks, number one, like it's too long, but that's okay. Since we have this piece back here, we can work on just cutting this back off. But I want to get a total length. What I'm looking for is that this is a proportion thing, as Joe Adamusco always says. It's got to be not too big and not too small, so you have to start somewhere. This prototype, I know two of the things I want to change. The length is okay, but I want to put more taper in it. I want to leave it fatter, longer at the end. So what I do when I cut the second block out, let me just taper this, get a little more realistic taper in this. I want to be able, what I did, I just shoved this into the drill press, into the chuck. So what I just want to do is relieve this enough, carve it round by hand, just so this will get cut off anyway. This is really just a sprue. Because I have to have some way of holding this while I spin it in a drill press. This is just one way to do it. And actually, I'm thinking I should make the cannons just a little bit too long, and then I can adjust them shorter. But then if I make them too short, it's okay. I can put a little extension inside the plane, inside the tube. You won't even see it. So I really am disappointed that those tubes didn't work out better, but I haven't given up on them yet. Idea, if you're going to spin something square in a chuck, either in a lathe or in a drill press, is just knock as much of the corner off as you realistically can. It just saves you from having to work that down by, it'll be chattering and hitting that piece. We don't really have a woodworking lathe. By the way, if you had a woodworking lathe, this would be just super. If you had any lathe. I'm just not in the mood to drive all the way down to the machine shop now to do this. Anyway, just roughed it out. Now I try to line it up, since most of this is going to be inside the plane. Oh gee, that's really in there. Now it's obviously going to be out of round, but I can hold it at the bottom. What I want to do, I want to get a rough fit to make sure I'm not making this way too small. And if I need more, I can just come back and chuck it back in and take some more off. It's still way too big. So I have plenty of meat to work with here, plenty of material. After about 100 test fits, we're just zeroing in on having it the way we want it. Now the part that I used to chuck this, I can just get rid of this and I should be real close to the length that I'm looking for. I have to put a 440 bolt in here, a little bulkhead. Haven't really decided how I want to confine that yet. But looking at the picture of the cannon, pretty close. Now, of course, I'll leave the end details go. This is now the prototype. I think I'm on a little bit on the small side. And now I just want to replicate this twice. Okay, it looks like we got the proportion right. You know, but I didn't want to go making up more cannons on this because I don't know, I don't want them to be too short, too long. This looks like a good prototype though. I think we can live with that. Okay, looks like we got the proportions at least half right here anyway. Now I've been trying to do a little fill. What I did, I made up what amounts to be just a dowel for the two cannon, like I'll call them blank spots, where there would be 4 cannons in a 4 cannon model. A little on the tight side. That one's loose, so maybe I just reverse them. And put the loose one on that side. Yes. Now I just need to figure out the length I want. Now obviously that's too long. I can go look at my book and get a rough idea what length I'm looking for there. Actually it's pretty short. Well, do I'll shorten these, let's see. A little bit at a time. You can always shorten them. A lot easier than making them long. Okay, that looks pretty close. We're going to take a break for lunch, come back and try to put some finish on this anyway. Get an idea. We got to put the nuts on the back anyway too. Now I got the cannons finally set to pretty much the way I like them. We're going to work on the screws in that later. We have a little problem with the neighbor's house. Craig is babysitting the neighbor's house, and there's a tree limb the size of a car just fell in his backyard. So I'm going to go out there and help him clean up. Two great ideas. These came from Bill Zimmer. Now I've used these in the past. This comes from a beauty parlor. Generally the women, you know, they do this with their fingernails, and of course the Bud McKnight sanding sticks. But just came at exactly the right time. I'm going to use these, and I got to find one and earth one. Use these for sanding down the cannons, and they're really helpful to do curved areas. And this will be, Bill, you couldn't have sent it at a better time. Believe me, I will use them. He sent a nice note. He's been watching Seafire videos or whatever, pornography, and sent me a note now. He says, Wendy, you look like you're losing your hair, which I am. He probably knows. I've probably confided in him that I use a gallon of minoxidil every morning. Got it from Dave Cook. But anyway, he sent me some, of all things, some shampoo to try. Now, if in the next couple of videos all of a sudden I have long blonde hair, you'll know Zimmer zonked me anyway. Anyway, he sent me a thing from Kenyon Place. This is where the hat is from, to add to my hat collection. In Illinois, of course. The deal is, though, Bill, this is the way this works. If they have pizza on the menu, we're in. If there's no pizza... So anyway, thank you for the stuff, thank you for the tip, and we look forward to seeing you at the Nats. And by the way, if you don't judge, you got to be my personal coach. Anyway, this little cannon adventure we've had today. Yeah, this works well, Bill. This is really good tip. And you know, that just goes to show you. Sometimes you find things that are useful, and you know what I even thought of doing now? See, this is how this stuff evolves. I was just thinking, while these are still in the chuck and they're spinning, you could hold one of these up against it and get a really nice finish on it. I'm really looking forward to having hair again, Bill. You know what I need is a blonde wig. When we get to the Nats, I think I'm going to buy a blonde wig and we could take turns wearing it. Anyway, Bill Zimmer, really a cool guy, I got to tell you. We do have a lot of fun with him. He's not the world's greatest pilot, but he's a hell of a lot of fun to have around. In fact, you know what, I got to look around. I got some real embarrassing video of Bill in 1990, I think, wearing some yellow shorts. He was trying to dress up to look like his airplane. Well, I don't know if he succeeded in looking like his airplane, but he looked like something yellow that buzzed and had wings and stuff. Anyway, hey, don't let Bill see this video either. Don't anybody send him a copy. Anyway, these are pretty much ready, but like I said before, we're stuck with doing tree limb duty probably for the rest of the day, so we'll pick this up tomorrow. I'm coming, Craig. Hey, I just got a call from Jess Stifle. He wants to work on our website tonight, so maybe I'll go over there tonight and look at what he's got cooking on the website. Here we are entering the bowels of Jeff Stifle's world. Midgley wants to see your shop. Hey, not too bad. What are you crying for? You're always crying you don't have a nice shop. Look at you, you got more room than I do.
No space here.
You got plenty of space.
There's a winch down there.
Hello! Hey, bada bing, bada boom. How you doing, Colin? Look at this. He's got all things. Now, Dave, check this out. He's got everything in order. Noel Drindak could be eating his heart out here looking at this. Holy mackerel. Now, what was the problem you had with the wing? Tell me. Tell me again.
I had fuzz.
You just had fuzz underneath it?
I had fuzz. You know what it was like?
Looks like you did a nice job on this.
It was like, well, if you had to shred it, it was really fine. I mean, it came out nice. I was impressed with the joint. The joint without, I didn't need fiberglass on this thing. It was so tight to begin with. I used aliphatic on it.
That's only one wing, right?
Yeah, here's the other panel.
Yeah, you can't put them together in a shop, obviously.
Yeah. This is a small plane. This is only 100 and some odd inches.
Nice. Yeah, looks decent.
Yeah, the one behind you is 132 inches.
Where's the big one that you had down my cellar? The moose.
Yeah, that turned out to be a terrible flyer. Terrible.
Look at this. Even glider people prefer Sickens M600. Invented by... Da-da-da-da. Let's hear it, Jeff.
Windy.
Windy. I'm gonna tell... shut up. Nobody wants to see kids in his shop. This is a man's shop. Real men.
That's Colin's workbench down there.
Is that your workbench? Oh, he's got a glass workbench, too. Holy
Yeah,
man.
what'd you build?
Scott Smith. It looks like my sandpaper on there, too.
What did you build? No, that's my sandpaper. What did you build?
I built an airplane, but propeller fell off.
You gonna help us put Wendy on the internet tonight? Wendy's gonna be world famous. People from all over China and Antarctica penguins are gonna be calling
You know
me
what
up.
happened to the propeller on it?
What?
It fell off.
We'll get another one. Ridgely's got lots of propellers.
That's a winch over there. And this is a...
Get our coffee and bagel combo for $1.99. For Sam,
So we're gonna eliminate this space.
Miss Lou this morning. And Tom.
We have some of those. Look at this website he's making for me. There's gonna be spider webs, spud web.
It's a one-of-a-kind cake, just like...
Tomorrow morning I'm gonna be driving a Rolls Royce thanks to this website. Let's see.
Oh, my
We're
favorite.
gonna sharpen up the images.
Look at that website. Oh man, dial it up. 1-800-WINDY. Oh my God. Oh, look at this. Adamusko, eat your heart out. You're on the internet. You're in Australia. You're in Antarctica. The penguins are calling up tonight.
This is gonna have Wendy's face with the
Penguins are ordering pizza. Oh my gosh.
His face will be replaced. In and out, in and out.
You know, when you want to stop this, you got to change the shutter speed on the camera, I guess. Oh, it feels so good to be on the Antarctic internet here. Look at that website. Able to leap tall penguins in a single bound. There's Noel Drindak flying around Scott Smith's basement.
Go fast, Colin.
Or is it really Dan Banjok flying around the Julia's kitchen? Who knows?
Fire the missiles!
You can tell we got nothing done on a website tonight thanks to this. Nice going, fat guy. Now, I don't have a website because we're playing with your silly helicopter. Now, it looks like we might have ducked another bullet. The snowstorm that was headed this way isn't going to be here. This is a great time to look around, and I hope this is coming out of the Mac lens. You can see the little pock marks and pit marks and little things on here. At some point in time, I want to sand everything down with 1200, but I want to make sure I have enough coverage, and I don't know if I can show this on the lens. I want to make sure when I do, I don't go down and hit the electroset. So before I do that first sanding, this is 3 coats. Usually I like to do 4, maybe even 5 if they're thin, but you can see how this is drying up. It's almost like an orange peel. You want to get that. That's telling you that you're putting it on just about right. It's dry enough. It's dry. If you were to look at this under a microscope, it would look like all little golf balls just laying on the top of a bucket. It's rough, but it will sand out real easy with the M600. If it doesn't dry like this, if it dries glossy, shiny, you might be having a problem that you're sending way more thinner down into this than you need to. So always, before I go on to the next succeeding coat, I try to take each little piece. Now this one, you can see it's just a little pot. You remember when we painted this, it looked wet, and then it dries just a little orange peely. It looks like we got the mix on this just about right. Right about here in the corner, you can see it's dry. Just about right. That I'm thinking we're going to need one more coat on this. I was real concerned with the canopy too. I wanted to be able to buff the inside and the outside of the canopy. You can see we have rivets and details inside the canopy. But I really didn't want to take any chance at all on melting it. So now over on what amounts to be the main frame, if you look up in the nose, that's drying just about the way it should. Right up here, it's probably going to feel a little rough. Whatever you're spraying into an angle, into a corner, there's no way you can avoid that I've ever found. Same thing back here. This is still kind of rough and gritty. This will have to be sanded out a couple of times. In fact, while I get the next coat on, I'm going to try to get maybe one extra coat on top of here. Everything back here, I try to put the minimum of paint on the back of the plane. Try to keep the tail light if possible. Everything up here looks like it's drying okay, so I'm just going to give the weather a little bit of time to warm up. It's cold, but it's dry. Stuff is just drying up great. And with the heat on in the house, it dries up beautifully. That's half of the key. Alright, it's cold enough out there that the paint's really laying down nicely. Now, one thing you might notice is in cold weather, if you spray outside in this kind of temperature, the paint will really lay down nice. And I've never done it, I've heard that if you let the paint dry, if you had a lot of time, you could let it dry outdoors in a garage or something, and that you would get a lot more gloss to it. You could save some of the orange peel. But I'm sure one of the trade-offs would be it would take longer to dry, and what it is I really would like, we're actually a little behind schedule here. I really don't want to waste any time I don't have to. I just want to see if you can get an idea of how that paint is laying down. Whoa, as he falls into the camera. If you get used to that wet, the look, get it wet and no runs, you minimize the amount of sanding that you have to do. I also, for anybody that's really interested in some more fine tuning, there is some information on a tape I made up by Scott Smith called a spray seminar. And the guys up there got some hands-on equipment. I think last year or the year before we did that. But what we basically had to do is work indoors. Now indoors the situation changes just a little bit. You don't run into this where the temperature varies. And you really, if you only have to deal with one temperature, it's kind of easy. When you have to deal with every day a different temperature and a different mix, it gets a little more difficult. But anyway, it looks like I'm going to skip right over this. This is laying down real nice. And I want to try to make some time getting all this stuff laid out. This is what you always have to do, is just candle everything to look for dry spots, and try to get on one wet coat at a time. A wet coat would be that it's shiny for the whole thing, and not so shiny that you have a run. And if you can find that razor edge, paint will be going on beautifully. Well, I was down at Chord this morning to buy some tape and stuff, and I picked up, believe me, you don't find this in Jersey anymore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cans of candy apple paint. This is all there is in the state of Jersey right now, and I have it all. I got 7 different colors: avocado, green, lime. So if anybody out there needs a little bit of candy apple to trim their plane, I know you can't buy this everywhere. We have 7 quarts of it sitting right on a deck here. Now what I did off camera here, just to get things speeded up, put on about 3 coats of nice thick CA, sanded between coats. I see I got one spot I still have to sand here. Just to give it a skin of thick CA, so when we actually do go to paint it, I can just put a coat of filler, or maybe even go right into the colored paint, sand it out. Makes a good base. I need to get a bolt, 440 bolt, into the back of the cannon so I can screw these on. Obviously what I want to do is take them off, have the option of taking them off, and the living proof of that is when we made the radiators, we thought long and hard about not knowing how they're going to work, so we made them removable. It turned out to be a good decision. So what I want to do is I'm going to take some 1/8 inch light ply, put some bolts, blind nuts in it, so the bolt will be sticking out one side. You really can't depend on just gluing a bolt into balsa wood. That'll give me a little bit firmer of an anchor here. And then I also want to somehow hollow this out a little bit, so that if I come by, or somebody launches the plane, or who knows what, they don't catch this on a belt loop or on their nose or something and break it off. I want this to break and not pull the front of the wing out if possible. Trying to make this like, safety proof or whatever, idiot proof, I don't know what. Anyway, I'm going to get started on this, and then by the end of the day, I hope I can even get some paint on the cannons. to do is take a washer and a bolt. And boy, it never hurts to make things removable. When you make things removable, hey, even if the plane doesn't fly right with these for some reason, or we want to try it at a some other trim setting. Now, obviously, I'm going to put some glue on that, and that'll be ready. I'm going to put a recess in the front of the cannon. I'll make up 4 more of these. Now, I want to try to center where I'm going to put the bolt. I'm going to take the Dremel tool, relieve this, but I want to make real careful I get it on center. Otherwise, the cannon is going to be, when I screw it in, it's not going to fit just right. I want to try to get that as centered as I can. I want to do this kind of thing where the bolt has to line up. The first thing is tack it in place. Just one drop. One little drop. Let this kick off. Now I want to put this into its socket. There's a blind nut in it, and make sure this bolt isn't off on an angle. By twisting it, I can kind of get a rough. It doesn't look too bad, but if it is off to one side, I can push it further back before I actually set this in permanently. I don't want to get these in and then I can't get them out, or some combination of things, especially when I do the big cannons. The thing too, once I have these inserted and screwed in, it's a big help if I have a little bit of a taper in the back here, so that I can center that bolt and get it started right away. But I want the front to be tight. So what I'm going to try to do is just get a little relief in the back, just so that the bolt actually will hold it in center. And if I don't get a tight fit in the front, I'll put extra coats of clear on or something to get a nice tight fit. Because another thing I don't want these rattling around either. So now it's just a question of test fitting 4 or 5 times, getting the exact fit I want, and then these will be ready to paint. That little taper, this is still a little wet. I want to be able to catch the first thread this in. I can feel the bolt bottom out. Okay, now, it feels like a tight fit, so what that's going to mean is I really want to put a minimum of paint on. I don't want to build up layer after layer of paint. If this was loose, I just build up a couple of coats of primer along the front. And I hope that's going to be a feasible, usable thing. Now, when I do the big cannons, I want to hollow these out a little bit. I want to run that tool in maybe an extra inch or so they'll tend to break off right at the front. When we have some clumsy fat guy like me picking up the plane, the wind blows, boom, 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 there go the cannons. Now, I have to tell you, emotionally, this is one of the things that I really like about the Spitfire, the Seafire, and the Mark 21-24. They really have, I don't know, they have a look with that armament, a look of being nasty or mean or something. I don't know, like they have claws or teeth or fangs or something. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, I kind of have to just make sure that I like the look here. I was going to try to drill a hole through all the cannons, then I thought of a little bit better idea. What I'm going to do is mark each one exactly where it comes through the front of the tube. And then behind it, just flute out some of the wood so it'll be weak back there and it'll tend to break back there instead of in the front. I think that'll work out a lot better in terms of making them break away instead of having them permanent. If I just take each one and just put a little dot roughly where the wood would end, make sure they're screwed in all the way. Again, it's a little detail. This one isn't in all the way, see? It's a little detail, but it's something. There's no guarantee these will break away, but at least we're trying to set the deck in our favor. You would think, the original thing you think about is, oh boy, I'm going to put cannons. I'll make some dowels from the grocery store or paintbrush handles or something. This took me more time than I thought it would. But what it is when it's done, this is what separates this plane from the Spitfire. This one I've put that extra little amount into. Do now, I can unscrew all of these. I can make a permanent glue joint on the blind nut now. I know that's pretty much where I want it to be. And then I can start to finish. And I have a couple of ideas what I can do about finishing these guys up. What I want to try to do is mix some silver and some black to make up like a gunmetal color, the color a gun really is. And it's kind of a gray, a dark gray, and I think that'll look, because I've looked at the way the pictures are in the prototypes, what it is there's some of them are painted to match the plane, some are gray, some are silver, some aren't painted at all. So again, I could probably freelance this a little bit. How far this sets into the wing. So I'm going to put some 1/8" tape just a little bit further back. So I know I want to leave myself a nice cushion in the front of that, but then all this material can come off.
Did you remember them?
Now, of course, if you had a lathe, this would be real nice. Put the screw in the lathe, chuck it in. But it just shows you, most important of all, you don't need a lot of high-tech tools to do good modeling, that's for sure. You need very little, in fact. But what you do need is you really have to want to do it. Now let's just hope I've made this joint weak enough, because it's like an airbag. The best thing of all is if you never have to use the airbag, but if you do have to, you know, let's hope we don't have any. I'm laughing, it isn't me. I'm sure it's going to be me. Or else you have to get into this thing where you don't let anybody ever touch your plane, and that's kind of a pain in the neck too. You become an elitist. Guys want to touch the thing, they want to play with it and whatever. Who knows? We'll find out. Also put a couple of coats of thin Sierra in this. Obviously this has to be oil proof. There'll be oil on this at some point in the model's life. That'll protect it, let's hope. I just wanted to make note on this. Some of these cannons really had a long gun barrel sticking out of them. And I did spend quite a bit of time trying to make this as scale as possible. Look at this, President Nixon calls up with a gun barrel. Hold on. Wow, I know you're not going to believe this. We're in the middle of an average day, and I wanted to go back to my poster here. Look at this poster. Now, somewhere on the beginning of this video series, you'll notice the fellow that sent me this, Robert Black, and of course he was a subscriber to the videos and a good friend who had called many times, interested in Spitfires and things. I just got a phone call, the phone call we just had, that he had just passed away. So, Robert, I figured I don't know what kind of a thing we can do. What I tried to do is get all the videos that, and he had a load of them, boy, to make a little video library for the guys in the Florida area. And we're working on that right now. So, Robert Black was the fellow's name. He gave me this. And, we miss you already. And it was really sad to hear that. I was so shocked by that last phone call, I really forgot where I was, what I was doing here. I was inserting a little piece of aluminum tubing to try to make the ends of the cannon realistic. And I think we're ready to go mix up some paint and get a coat of some kind of gunmetal color on these. What I did, I mixed up some gold powder gold paste from the bottom of one of these cans of gold. What I do, I let it decant and then I steal all the pigment off the bottom. Mix some gold, some silver, and some black to try to simulate that gunmetal type of color. Now what I'll do is I'll let this decant so that all the gold will sit in the bottom. And about a minute or two from now, let's see what that color looks like when it's sprayed. And if I don't like it, I'm going to put a couple of colors on anyway, so it won't really matter. I can use this for a coat of filler. Either add some black to darken it, add some gold to make it a little more metallic. Or add some silver, either one or the other. I don't know if I like the color yet, but I made a little fixture, just a piece of hardwood, scrap piece of furniture, so that I could use these for standing up while it was drying. And of course, while I have the paint out, I'll do the hook too. Carry a hook. Try to get this, but it really looks like it's going to snow any minute out there. Anyway, we get these painted and we'll see if we like the look tomorrow when it's dry. Again, you don't really know what a color is going to look like till it's dry. But for a first coat of paint, first coat of finish, I guess that'll have to do. We'll see what that looks like tomorrow. Okay, this morning everything looks like it dried up real well. Real happy with the way this is drying up. Again, I'm giving it one, well, I'm not pushing it either, one coat a day. Now the only problem today, it looks, and this is the kind of evaluation you have to make. Let's take a walk at it. This is worth talking about. Went out this morning, even though it's not really super cold, you can see it's very humid. So I turned on the weather station. It's 79% humidity. Now I know from doing that, and I feel it feels like it's going to snow. I know one of the things I'm going to have to do is do a little test. Take one of the pieces, the cowl, the tip weight box, spray it, and look for some humidity blush. If I have any humidity blush, just for today, I'll have to add about a spoonful, and this is just about a spoonful of retarder to each one of the 8-ounce guns. And that'll usually kill it. More than that, and you really get high risk. Wouldn't want to put any dope that ever has retarder in it or high gloss thinner near a canopy. That's the one thing. Just let that go for another day. Now what I usually do is the first thing before you go ahead and do anything, is take a little look at this, let it dry up a little bit, and see if it hazes over. If you get any little hint of that milky look, that cloudy look, we'll add retarder. If not, we're going to try to duck the bullet here and not add any retarder. So we'll give this 8-10 minutes to see if it, just till I can touch it. If it doesn't haze up till I touch it, we're home free all. You know, it looks like we've just lucked out. I've got a couple of parts painted and they're certainly showing no sign at all of clouding over. But around here, you never know. Now, it's even if today it feels like it's getting colder by the minute it's dark. And you never know. The minute you see a hint of that cloudiness, stop. Stop. You're just making yourself a mess. So far, so good. But boy, the thing you don't want to do is get 3/4 of the parts painted and then start to see the first one you did start to cloud up. Then you know you're dead. Ask Gary Lutz, he'll tell you, it's not fun having to sand out all that milky white stuff. What timing. I just get done with the last of the flaps. Let me try to get this. And it just started to show the slightest little hint of fogging over, and 2 seconds later it started raining. Now, whenever you see the first raindrops, you're almost guaranteed you're going to have to put a little retarder in the clear. So I'm going to take, before I even get a part that clouds up, I'm going to get some retarder in that paint. About a spoonful in an 8-ounce cup. Another way you can beat the system, being it's starting to rain and I still have a few of these parts to do. It looks like the retarder worked fine. I have no sign of clouding up here. Another technique is put on light, thin coats. Try to back the pressure down to maybe even 15 and put on thin coats. It's when you put a big heavy coat on that you're trapping that moisture. Thinner coats, less pressure, and a little bit of retarder will get us through this day.
Every Saturday night
It looks like we're just going to beat the system today. Now, if I didn't have a good assurance that these parts were drying up, I'd put off and postpone putting the paint on the mainframe. But what I'll do, just to make sure, a little insurance, I'll get the heat up as far as it'll go to 90 and let the house dry out for about an hour before I go ahead and paint the mainframe. Now what I do here, and this works out well, I paint this side of the fuse. Only one problem, and I guess if you go back through the video, you'll see what I've done. I think yesterday or the day before, I forgot to mention it. I had the plane the wrong way. I had it backwards this way, painted the side of the fuselage that I normally can paint when I hang it from the lead-outs. Well, that didn't do much good, but what I did, of course, I just had to do it while I was on my knees, laying on my back and whatever. Anyway, we're almost at the point here, being at the end of this tape, and we're also, this will be the last coat of clear we put on here before we actually start sanding it. We've got about a little more than 2/3 of the clear put on here already. This will finish up the 2/3. One gun load usually does the plane. And then we'll be ready to start the sanding operation. In fact, we'll be able to start as soon as this kicks off, maybe tomorrow or the next day. We'll be ready to go. Last thing I did here, there's a couple of spots where the paint just started to look like it was getting ready to run. It has a couple little spots, geez, they're really small, where the fillets have either a spot of goop in them or, right up there, I don't know. Anything that looks like it might be bubbling up, take that little number 11 blade and just beat away at it. This looks pretty good. We have one bad spot on the bottom. I got a little bit of almost a run. See, I was trying to paint into the corner here. That'll come right out. It's not a problem. Picked up some dirt or dust probably from blowing off the ceiling. In here, there's one little speck of stuff. I don't know how that got in there, but that'll probably sand out. And his looks like it's bubbling up just a little bit. I just hit that with the 11 blade, hit that with the 11 blade. And the next thing here, and this is the fun part, this is when it starts to really get to be fun. Get it up by the heating vent, pay the heating bill. And tomorrow or the next day, we'll be able to come down here, wet sand one of these parts out. I think that's almost all the clear we're going to need on here except for that final coat. And then, of course, if we go through in any spots, we can touch it up. We'll have a little bit extra. I might need a little extra around the edge of the roundels. I don't know. Maybe some on the canopy. Not sure. I need to do the canopy again. The guns need another coat, but basically that's 90% of the clear. There's one of those 3 jars left. I hope I'm going to wind up not using all the clear. That'll save me half an ounce or so if I can do that. One of the things I know many people have told me that I've got an idea that they can use from the video is time management, and we're at the point I really don't want to get tempted to start sanding that stuff too early. What happens if you do, when you sand it the next day even, it's still soft and buttery. Better it should dry, especially with the heating vent. A couple of days anyway, 3 days. A week is even better. But what I do have time for, a little bit of time at the end of this video, is to make up a list of the jobs that are left to complete this project. The finishing the clear, I'm going to be making up some props, the new spinner cones, gear doors, the buffing, and the tank venting. And that'll finish the Seafire. So I've already planned on and tried to start what I hope is going to be a work schedule for
for the rest of the season. We're going to be building a full foam wing pattern master, so kind of stay tuned or be happy or whatever. A full foam wing pattern master. I'm just waiting for the tail from Scott Smith now. As soon as I get that, we'll start that project. I'm going to be making what I hope is going to be the plug for our carbon fiber fuselage, and with Midgley's help, Dick Brannon, I'm hoping that's going to be a very good, not too disappointing project. But even if it isn't, it won't matter. We have plenty of wood airplanes. I need to make a new spinner mold. That's coming soon. I need to get a bunch of props made up. I always like to... See, the point is here, a lot of people now, they'd come down to the shop tomorrow, ooh, there's nothing to do, let's start buffing a plane, and oh man, you make a mess. And when you rush that part of it, you make yourself crazy. So it's always good to have a little priority list, the things that you want to do, and schedule them. Well, we can't make... It's better to do the props before the spinner, because then we can use the props themselves to cut out the spinners. We really always leave the gear for last, because that gives us a day or two to work on landing gear legs while we have the plane completely finished and I can tweak up the wires. So making, and you always leave the tank venting to last so that the plane is buffed and you don't have to buff around tank vents. So having a little priority list at this point in time, this is a good productive thing to do right at this point in time. Hope you got some good information, some good ideas from this tape, some inspiration or whatever. I don't know exactly what you get, but again, I'm sorry to hear about Robert Black. That was really a sad down point, and I do wish his family well, of course. What's coming? Well, the weather's warming up and we may get to do that double start test soon. The Red Baron is sitting there with no motor. He's ready to go out for a test day as soon as we get a reasonable day. We have new resin, new rubber coming for this. I hope Les is going to be able to get that to me in the next week. We're going to be making up a little bit different spinner cone, a little more scale-like. And again, I want to do all the props, maybe on the next tape or two. We'll put a nice dissertation about how to rework props. Ready to make up another mold with the new test rubber as soon as it comes in, the platinum-filled rubber. And most of all, just kind of keep looking at him, look for any little flaws you can, any little spots that look like they're bubbling, hit them with an 11 blade 1,000 times. You don't want to have a trapped air bubble at every time the temperature changes. It just constantly rips away at the paint. And I'd say overall, I'm real satisfied the way this is going. It's hopefully going to be another week or two, and we'll have the clear buffed out, and we can get an idea what it's going to weigh, where the CG is going to be, start setting up the motor on it. This is the part of the plane that I really enjoy, is getting all these little details taken care of. Hoping you got something out of the video. Please pass the videos around to your friends. Please invite them over for a pizza. You know, share the information. The only way we're going to ever have a hobby that's worth having is if everybody can build planes nice, convenient, reasonable, without the disappointment and senseless tragedy that you have when nobody helps you. But even on a rainy day like this, we did get some clear on, but believe me, it's always better to wait. This is something I really don't like to do unless I really have to. The clear is really thinned out. This last coat, so we're going to try to get it on about 15 pounds PSI. We'll go down from 20. Try to get that at 15. The less pressure you can get the last coat on, the better off you are. And that's our next project, is get a new spinner and get some props made up. So see you on the next tape. Thanks for joining us.
Simple kind of life, baby, no hard race to be a family working on the farm. The days are all filled, and thank God I'm a country boy.